Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vikings Happy Hour. Tonight we're going to talk about the Brian Flores hiring. It was announced on Monday afternoon that the Vikings have hired Brian Flores to be their defensive coordinator, signing him away from the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he was a defensive assistant after being a head coach of the Miami Dolphins. So obviously a lot to unpack here. But what Flores brings is something that we probably haven't seen in a little bit, especially last year with Ed Donatel. But his blitz rates are obviously through the roof. So I'm just going to go ahead and call those out quick. 11th in the NFL in 2019 when he was with the Dolphins, second in the NFL in 2020, and second in the NFL in 2021. So this Vikings defense is in for a change in philosophy of how they're run. So I want to tap on you guys quick and just see, what are your initial thoughts with the hiring, and then we can get into maybe some guys that would be good fits for this team as we try to rebuild this defense to be competitive with our offense. So Ryan, I'll toss it to you first. I know we were all together when this news broke, but kind of break it all down. What are your thoughts with Flores being the guy?
Well, it's funny. I think that the brass must have been listening to the fans because we all clamored each and every week that, hey, we got to be more aggressive. We got to be more aggressive. We got to be more aggressive, and we kept playing this shell defense. So I tweeted out that we're going to see a complete 180 in terms of the style that you're going to see it from the defense.
For sure.
You're going from a very conservative, like let's bend don't break style defense to we're throwing everything we got at you and hope for the best. And obviously I think there's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way in year one. We'll talk about some of the guys that can maybe help mitigate that, but I don't know if we have the talent on the team at this moment to be able to support the style that he wants to play. But again, this isn't a 1 year hire, and if it is, that means that he was able to turn this defense around a complete 180 for them, just from us, in terms of production standpoint as well. So it's a long-term hire. I think it's one we're gonna see a different attitude, a different style that I like my dogs on defense, right? So it's going to be one that I think we're going to be much happier watching on a game in game out basis. And honestly, when Myles came back to the table yesterday, I couldn't believe
Punched
it
me in the
because
ribs.
punch
Still
you
have
right
a
in the
bruise
ribs.
over here.
Yeah, but like how exciting, right? Like this is what we were all clamoring for,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a great hire. I'm excited.
Now, Myles, before you get going here, I think the one thing to call out with the Flores signing is it's not going to be an overnight change, right? Like these this aggressive defense, yeah, they'll probably do it, but Ryan, to your point, there's going to be some bumps in the road before we see this come to full fruition. And so hopefully, I think at least my biggest concern is how long will Flores stay? I'm hoping it's longer than 1 year, but um, yeah, to your point, Ryan, it's going to take a little bit to get to that elite level defense, especially with players. But Myles, go ahead and give your thoughts um, on the Flores hiring.
Yeah, I think like you guys, I was really excited. Like you said, we were all together, so it was kind of cool. I was I was running in the bathroom on my way out. I checked my phone, and I just like scrolled on Twitter, and I saw I'm Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, one of those guys tweeted it out, and I just I put my hand in the air, like walking toward back to you guys, like let's go. Like it was cool, just because for me it was like the three top was Evero, Flores, or Sean Desai. Like I wanted one of those three to be a Vikings DC. Obviously, Wilkes and Vance Joseph kind of got into the mix there toward the end, but like those are the three originally, and to be able to get Brian Flores, the most experienced of those three guys, especially, is really good. And for a team that really needs it, I think the Vikings defense, from a personnel standpoint, hasn't been good. We basically have a 3 year sample size of like this core group just not being what it used to be, and kind of needing a fresh face, a fresh revamp of an idea and style, and getting faster, getting younger. And so I think Brian Flores hopefully can bring that, because I think the one thing that we know about Brian Flores is he's been able to coach up some of the young players to play above probably even their pedigree. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I'm most excited about is, can he get his hands on guys like Brian Asamoah, Andrew Booth, Caleb Evans, like Cam Bynum, excuse me, Lewis Cine, like those young guys, Ross Blacklock, who are the D linemen, like Otomu, like some of those young guys that we just brought in. Can he get his hands, like as a unit, get their hands on those guys, and can this scheme really help unleash a little bit more of those guys? I think the one thing though it does is, Ryan, you'd kind of mentioned with Flores coming in, it can't just be a 1 year one and done, because they don't have the roster construction to do that. And so my hope is Brian Flores saw that opportunity and said, this is going to take a couple of years, and like, that's okay. And I hope that was kind of the conversation. Obviously expectations are somewhat high when you win 13 games, but I think reality needs to set in too, that they need to do quite a bit to revamp that defensive roster. So I'm excited about the hire. I think you're going to see a little bit more of what we saw under Zimmer in terms. I don't know what the blitz rate is with Zimmer compared to Flores, but my guess is it's probably similar. And we know Zimmer liked to play a lot of man coverage as well, and shift guys around and with communications, especially the safeties that were interchangeable. And guys flying around playing man coverage. And I think maybe this will be a little bit more off man coverage than what we saw with press with Zim, but overall more aggression, more blitz opportunities. But what comes with that is you needing more speed. You need guys that can cover, that can not just run with guys, but also recover with guys. Because a lot of times if you're being overly aggressive, sometimes guys get open quickly and you got to recover. And so like those types of things, you definitely need way more speed than what we had in 2022 with this current defense. Like, I love Patrick Peterson, but I just don't think he fits your time horizon. I know that becomes like the big thing. I don't think he fits the time horizon of what you need out of your corners anymore. I think he could do it, but I think we talked about this before. I think they need to get to a point where they're focusing on getting younger youth, but veteran youth. And so I think this is an opportunity to let some of those older guys go, like maybe it's Eric Kendricks, Jordan Hicks. We'll see about Zadarius Smith, Daniil Hunter, those two guys. But Harrison Smith, Patrick Peterson, I think it's probably time to start anew a little bit and revamp that core.
Yeah, and a couple of things off of your comment there, Myles. We talked with somebody when we were down in Mobile. I'll leave them unnamed, but they talked about how the Chiefs do such a good job with their young guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and they allow them to work those kinks out throughout the season. So it will be interesting to see if Flores can do a similar thing that's happening in Kansas City, where you have Karlaftis, McDuffie, among many
Watson,
others.
All those guys. Yeah, another quick comment on that too, really, just going back to Flores and his style is, Matt, you alluded to his experience, right? Or Myles, you did as well, like how experienced he is. And a lot of that experience came with Bill Belichick, and he got to learn under I think all of us would agree he's a defensive mastermind, really, in the NFL these days. You look at that roster and some of the turnover they have, and you're like, gosh, that defense has got to fall off. And every year they're right up there as one of the best defenses. So one of the things I always loved about Bill Belichick and watching that New England Patriots defense is they always schemed to the players, and they found a way to take your best player out, right? And I didn't follow Flores super closely in his defenses back then with Miami, but if he's able to bring some of that magic, right, and that philosophy over with him and can install that's going to make our lives a lot better, especially when we are getting a revamped Detroit Lions that are having some now offensive weapons, right?
Yeah.
You got Justin Fields who can, just tear teams apart with his legs, right? How can we mitigate some of these top end players and take them out of the game and make other parts of the team beat us, or make Justin Fields beat us with his arm? And shoot, I know the guy can do it, but I'd rather lose to him going down throwing than the running, right? So it'll be interesting to see how he installs this defense and how it reacts to that philosophy.
I also think too, real quick, Matt.
Real quick.
I also think too, with Flores, we got to also understand the flip side of it. He's going to be asked to turn like water into wine, because this dude, he's going to be asked to carry a really heavy burden. Not just because of what's currently on roster, but like fans' expectations. Like when you upgrade from an Ed Donatel who didn't really live up to what we had hoped him to do with especially when the team went 13-4, you kind of hoped the defense could be a little bit more stable, and we didn't see that. And so Flores is going to really have some of those expectations to turn a really bad defense into even a mediocre defense, which is a hard thing to do.
Yep.
It's going to be hard to go from like the 28th ranked defense to like the 15th, 16th, anything in the top 20. That's not an easy thing to do, especially when you don't have a lot of cap space and you don't have a lot of draft capital. So how are they going to maneuver to make some of those fixes? And what are they're going to be a couple of guys that you didn't really think should be playing a lot of minutes and snaps that you're probably going to get more snaps than anticipated. And so you're going to have to do some of that. Some of those guys that, that are just really depth pieces are going to have to be more rotational pieces that get more opportunity, but can they get the most out of those guys? So that's kind of where like the hesitation for anybody that they would have hired, it'd be like, it's going to be it's going to be an uphill battle either way.
Yeah. One thing I want to say before we dive into this last little portion here is I think what people often forget about Brian Flores is he never was the defensive coordinator in New England. And so he still is a relatively new play caller, so to speak. I mean, only 4 years really, when you think about it. And to put up this level of dominance that he did in the 3 years that he was with the Dolphins, that I think is what has me the most excited. He's got another year of experience with Pittsburgh now. And so I'm sure he's been working on some things that he's ready to kind of showcase this season. So when we talk about Brian Flores, obviously there's players that kind of fit that mold. And I think we all each have at least one or two quick as we round up the show here. Somebody that I mentioned Monday night after the show or the news broke was pending free agent Eric Rowe. He spent a lot of time in Miami with Brian Flores in all 3 of his seasons down there, kind of a safety cornerback hybrid role. But as Luke Braun mentioned as well, the Flores defense is, they don't always just have like cornerbacks and safeties on the field. There's a lot of hybrid players that they like to rotate in and out to kind of accommodate this blitzing mentality that Flores has. So Rowe to me is, he's hitting 30 years old. I think he'll be a relatively easy get. And if you tell him that he's going to get to play with Flores again, I think he'd probably jump at that opportunity.
How old is Rowe?
He's going to turn 30.
Okay.
Yeah. So back end of career, not a long-term deal, but you know what?
So like he provides that veteran leadership to especially this young
Exactly.
safety group. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
especially when you're going to need guys that know this system.
Yep.
To help come in and teach the other guys the system too, and that's always an important piece.
It's the Terrence Newman thing, right? Like you had to get him in here with Zimmer to help get these guys, on the same page. So that would be my target. I haven't looked enough at the draft, but I know Ryan, you might have some guys in free agency or the draft that you're kind of interested in, and then you can toss it over to Myles.
Yeah, I mean, from the draft perspective. Actually, if you guys follow Jordan Reed at all on Twitter, if you don't, you should.
None of us
do,
he actually.
Right. But he tweeted out that this is one of the deepest classes that you can that in recent memory for a cornerback.
Yep.
And they have types of corners, all types of shapes and sizes and schematic fits to kind of fit your needs. And a couple of these guys in the first round, if we do decide to go that way, right? I mean, really all of these guys who are getting a lot of first round hype, right? Devon Witherspoon, Joey Porter Jr., Cam Smith, right? All of these guys. Now, I don't think a lot of these guys are going to be available when we go. So Cam Smith, probably the most likely of those 3 that I had mentioned. And honestly, I love him. I was telling Matt before the show here, he had a great post-game interview after, I think, the Clemson win. If you didn't check that out or hear that one, you got to go check it out. But yeah, I mean, he's a dog mentality, and he's a physical defender. He's probably going to get in a little trouble because he's a little too physical at times, especially at the top of the route there, but he's productive, both in terms of pass breakups, in terms of staying in the hip pocket of the receiver, as well as in the run game. So I mean, he misses here and there, but overall he's a pretty physical presence. So Cam Smith's kind of my guy. I've been a big fan of him. And another guy in the second round or third round if we trade back is, or he'll be a second round pick probably, Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State. So another very physical cornerback. In terms of the free agency, I mean, there's so many ways you can go, Myles. I know I don't want to step on your touchdown call here. I'll let you go first, and then maybe if there's somebody else that I was missing or that you're missing
I
that
don't.
I was thinking
I
of.
might not go with so Byron Murphy is obviously the name that
That's your guy.
I've been talking about since like September when when I looked at one of the first games of the season. I was like, this cornerback group sucks. We need to, who can I saw I was like looking. I was already looking like in September. Byron Murphy for me is the obvious answer because he's got outside flexibility. I kind of think he can play a little bit of that like Joker role, which I think this defense really needs. They need somebody that can kind of like Mike Hilton from the Bengals is like a perfect example of somebody that you could put anywhere on the field and he can go get the quarterback if you're blitzing him off the edge. He can cover anybody. He can cover inside. He can cover outside. He's kind of like the quarterback in the meeting rooms. So Mike, like that type of mentality, type of player. And so that's why Byron Murphy for me kind of fits that. But I also think a couple other guys, Jonathan Jones for the New England Patriots. He's got that inside outside flexibility as well. Comes from the Bill Belichick defense. The Patriots don't ever like to pay their own players. So I feel like, and he's young. So I feel like he's one of those guys that, coming from that defense, he should be able to acclimate pretty quickly. And then the other one for me was Cam Sutton coming from the Pittsburgh Steelers, knows Brian Flores. He's young. He's got that nickel outside flexibility, kind of that Mike Hilton player. And so I think there's an opportunity for one of those types of guys to really like go get that guy that's coming off the rookie contract that's 25, 26, 24, 25, 26 years old that you can have for 3 to 4 to 5 years. Yep. And they can grow in this defense as this defense continues to revamp instead of going after the 32-year-old, 33-year-old vets, And so that's kind of what I'm hoping for. But I also, one other thing real quick I want to touch on. There's two positions this defense really needs. Cornerback we just touched on, but I also think they need a penetrating defensive lineman and someone that can create consistent pressure, not just someone that can clog holes. And I think they need a big body too, but like someone that can really like your Chris Jones, some of these like Aaron Donalds, those are obviously like the best of the best, but like you need somebody that can really go get the quarterback consistently, but also has a big body and can move people. And I think the Vikings are really missing that. So there's two guys real quick that I want to touch on. Javon Hargrave from the Eagles. He's going to be an impending free agent who looks like he's going to earn a pretty big contract. And then Draymond Jones from the Broncos. I think he's another guy that probably going to break the bank as well if he doesn't go back to Denver, or even if he does. Those are two guys, like if you wanted to really go spend some money, if you free up enough cap space and you wanted to go big game hunting, a guy like that could really, really help fortify that defensive line.
No, those are solid people there.
Those are big names. And we'll dive in as we go, like into some of the like
for sure
mid and lower tier free agents, but those are the like immediate ones that jumped out to me.
Yeah, I love it. I think I speak for us all when I say that we're all ecstatic for this Flores hiring. Obviously, it's still very early in the off season, so there's a lot that can still go down. But we'll continue to speculate and try to make the best educated guess we can for potential fits as we continue to inch closer towards free agency and the NFL draft. So thank you too for hopping on tonight. A big shout out to our sponsors, Lake Monster Brewing in St. Paul, Minnesota, who make some of the best craft beer in the state. And then Badass Wood Art. If you have not yet, make sure you head over to badasswoodart.com and you can order any custom piece of wood art and get 20% off any one item using promo code CTPocket. So that'll do it here for Vikings Happy Hour. Until next time, Skol Vikings.